I make things very simple. I'm a very lazy person. I'm a lazy person. I like to make it all do the next step that I'm going to do. What I'm doing now is going to complement the next step to make that easier. That's just how lazy I am. So you think about all the different applications of this. This is a motor on a stick. That's all this is. My guys know that we haven't touched the floor sander all week. What have we touched, guys? Come on, everybody give me an answer here. What does it do? Turns paper, right? You don't sand the floor. It's a paper turner, right? What's sanding the floor?
The drum.
No.
Belt sander.
You weren't here. What's sanding the floor? Break it down. What is it? It's a rock. It's a freaking rock. That's what's sanding the floor, right? It's a rock. We got to use that rock to our advantage. Well, you think about this right here. This is a 120 grit. Here's a 100 grit. If I want to make this rock cut more or less aggressive, what am I going to do to it? I'm going to put a paper turner with a stiffer back, right? So instead of going to a thick red pad, I might go to a maroon pad. That's going to make this mineral more aggressive, isn't it? If I want to soften it up, I might want to go to a white pad. It's going to make that rock sand different because of different thickness. If I want to be a little bit stiffer but still flexible, I'll go to the red pad. If I want it to be flexible and still stiff, I do this all the time. I'm not kidding you. I'll put this on here. I'll put this on here. Now I've got a stiff, flexible pad, don't I? I can change the rock to do whatever I want it to do. Starting to make sense to you here? If I want to go super fine, which is what we're going to finish with, a 120, I might go with a thin white pad, wherever it's at. I don't have one. It's over here on behind me. I'll put a thin white pad and a maroon pad. That's going to keep it flat. This is going to keep it firm. What's that piece of paper going to do? You see how see the difference in the way it crunches versus this?
Mm-hmm.
See, it's going to crunch different than this. So now I made a soft hard plate. A hard plate is the driver just like this, only it's a giant chunk of aluminum. Weighs about 12 to 13 pounds. You can take the old days. Where's Buffalo at? Right here. In the old days, you had a drum sander. You still run a drum sander. There's nothing wrong with it, but you hard plated every floor, didn't you? To get what? Get rid of the chatter. Well, I hate to say this, but as young bucks, we got lazy. We forgot how to use the skills of hard plating. We're trying to reintroduce that because if you want to get imperfections out, you got a hard plate. But you don't want to put a heavy scratch in, so we're going to change it up. We're going to use a hard soft plate. Or I might use a firm soft plate. Or I might use a flexible soft plate. Or I might just be an aggressive plate. See all these combinations make the difference? And it all changes one thing. I'm not changing the rock, I'm just changing the way I use the rock. That's all that I'm doing. Make sense? All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to buff. I'm not going to put any sandpaper on here. Well, you know what, I will, just to show. Guys, I'm sorry, but our panel is going to be screwed up, so but for demonstration purposes only, we're going to put some heavy scratches in this thing on purpose.
Why don't you do your camera?
Yeah. We'll put our money where our mouth is. How's that? We'll make this thing so slick and smooth. When we get done, you feel these end matches? If Stevie Wonder can find one, I'll be surprised. Okay? This is a 100 grit. This is what we're going to make. This is basically going to be a firm, soft plate instead of a hard plate. There should be a skirt somewhere for this.
It's over.
Hit the vacuum?
Yeah, we should put the vacuum. This is when you make most of the mess, is with this buffing. Where's the skirt? Oh well, turn the vacuum on, we'll just fake it. Put on all three of them. Alright? As you buff, you don't want to buff like a janitor. It makes these kind of motions. You're putting all these scratches in there. A lot of times you may go across the grain, all the way across. That's going to get your fork flat. If you only turn the vacuum off.
Release one of the.
Go ahead and turn that off. Now it won't fly. That skirt will keep the dust on the ground. I can talk. So a lot of times they're going to go across here, and they're going to, and what that's going to do, you see that spot they missed right there? Y'all see that? They missed that with the big machine. See how it jumps out? So I'm going to have to make sure I get that. I'm going to heal it a little bit, and we'll get right into that view. Now it's gone. The whole time you're listening to it. Okay? Is it gone? Just that quick, right? Watch what happens when I hit that pine. Listen to it. Hear the difference in the scratch? Alright, now you got it. How do I know where it's cutting at? Well, your instructors may have already told you. This thing's cutting dominantly on the right side. We call it 3 o'clock. You want to use that to your advantage. If I buff like a janitor and I go down and back and go up half a buffer and go down and go back up half a buffer like that. All right, turn the vacuum on real quick. I want to get this dust picked up. Turn it off. Come down here for a second. You feel how smooth it is here? Then it got rough. Then it got smooth again. Then it got rough. Give me one of those round discs. Here's what I did. Give me one more. That's a full buffer, right? So I went down that way. I moved up half a buffer, right? It's cutting the most aggressive at 3 o'clock. I sand it real aggressive here. And then I skipped because I didn't touch this portion. Exactly. So what I got is a smooth, and then it's rough. Then it's smooth, and then it's rough. You want to buffer the technique so that you get the full application of it. If that's cutting at 3 o'clock, we're going to call this portion of it right here 3 o'clock. I want to go down at 11 o'clock. I want to come back at 2 o'clock. What have I gotten? I got a full 16-inch path, didn't I? If I just keep it like that and I go down and back, I'm skipping. I'm skipping a section every time. And you can actually see that underneath the finish. Mostly with an oil base, not so much with a water base. You'll see it. It'll look dull, shiny, seen it a gazillion times, going on complaints. And they always think it's the finish. I mean, the finish, it's streaked. How can it do that? I'm like, well, they didn't put half a gloss and half a semi-gloss in the same bucket, dude. It's not the finish. It's your sanding technique.
You cutting more aggressive to the right or to the left?
It doesn't. It cuts the same. It cuts the same. It cuts flat. So here's how you should do it. Here's how you should buff. Once you get your floor flat, now we're going to go through our buffing technique. Again, we're very aggressive with this right here. You can see that drill mark right there? Y'all see that? Mm-hmm. That's a big machine mark. You want to work that out. Work an egg bolt. It's a nice big egg shape. Turn the vacuum on for me. See how I'm going bigger and bigger every time? There you go. That's how you do it. Wrong, isn't it? Just that quick. I lost what I do here. I'm going to come along the wall. I'm going to buff it at 11 o'clock. Where's my cutting pattern at? Right where that taper's at. Okay. I'm going to make egg shapes all along the wall. Now, why would I want to make egg shapes along the wall? You think about it. If I didn't make that egg shape, as I go down and back, I'm going to leave that. By making this little egg shape against the wall, I'm getting that scallop out of there. That little bit spot's going to be gone. I'm going to buff the whole perimeter, all the way around. Come right back where I started. I'm going to go all the way down to that wall, however long it is. But instead of dropping back half a buffer, scratch factor on it. Okay, now I don't have to make the hay change. Now I can just run it down the wall. Don't cut by your floor. Now I get here, this is where I drop down half the buffer. As soon as I can, I turn it 11 o'clock. Jump all the way down the wall. Come back in the same path. That, now I got a full path to one going. That's going to feel very uniform. As opposed to right there. This is what the canvas does. Come here. Drop down. Come here, drop down. See the difference? You can see the difference, can't you? That's why you go down and back in that same path. That doesn't come one. Got a bad one right there. Feed into it, make that H shape, work that 3 o'clock on it. See how I use the whole body? I don't like to, a lot of guys will just stand here and they'll what they call heal the bubble. They'll pick up that one side and heal it. As soon as you heal it, you're dipping it out. I want to make it flat. I put everything I got into it. Right here. Make that machine do the job. Go a little bit bigger every time. Go on. Come back. Straighten it out. Down and back. Stay fast. Another thing I don't like to do. I don't like to put one hand on it. Look on the buffer. Bouncing. Put both hands on my buffer. A lot of guys put one up, one down. That way they got control of the buffer. If they want to heal it, they can heal it. I just do this way. Doesn't matter. One up, one down, that's okay. You're going to work it. Well, I use my feet. Now, when I walk down, the guys in my group told me when I walk, it's always one foot in front of the other like this. Always, right? I do the same thing when I walk. I keep a nice straight line. You go down, one foot in front of the other. All the way down. That's how I do it. One back, one way. Now, like the diamond. See all the marks in it?